Oh, hi, Dr. Wang is here, still in my basement recording this series of videos for Proforma analysis. So this is the last video I posted yesterday. However, there was a mistake. I hope you guys would forgive me again for another time. I'm so sorry about it. So it is about the calculation of accounts payable. And Mr. Marco Quiros pointed out that I made a mistake here, which indeed I made. So if I clicked here, you will see for the account payable, I should use D14 instead of D15. Okay, so I should use D14 to make sure I use account payable of 2015, and then hit enter. So the correct number should be $189,000.51. Okay, so that's the place you guys need to check. And then here is something new. Okay, so after we finish this, correct the mistake. So you should get a difference between the assets and between the liabilities and the total assets. Okay, so the difference is this number, and this is a deficit. So you can type in a gap in balance sheet. Okay, I believe that you can do the typing. And here is something you need to do. This is an if statement. So basically, it says if this number, this B25, the number, if it is greater than 0, then we call it a surplus because you have more than the capital you need for purchasing of assets. If it is less than 0, I will call it a deficit. Okay, and if it is equal to 0, I call it balanced. Okay, I call it balanced. Okay, you don't have to write all this down for me, but you can put a line of statement here. It's called an if statement. So basically, I start with the if. So if this number is greater than 0, then my output should be surplus. And make sure you use a quotation sign for the surplus word. Okay, and then otherwise, it could be a deficit, it could be balanced. I don't know whether it's less than 0 or equal to 0. So I'm going to use another if statement. I'm going to call this number. If this is less than 0, then my output will be deficit. Okay, then comma. Otherwise, it is not less than 0. It certainly is not greater than 0. Means it is equal to 0. Then it is balanced. Okay, I just applied balanced. All right, then close the statement. Two if statements here. Okay, then hit enter. All right, so now I'm done with this gap. The thing is, in the statement, I want to close that gap, and my tool is to use short-term notes payable. I'm going to change the number here to make sure this is something doable. If I just to get back one more time, I hit the formula view. I hope you guys just to follow me. And once again, apologize for the mistake I made about account payables calculation right here. So you can just spend a moment, take a look at all the formulas and all the numbers output. Okay, just take a look at all of them. And then we shall proceed. Okay, so right here is not certainly balanced. The gap is not closed. You have a $31,000 deficit. Okay, so what can you do about that? You're gonna adjust the short notes payable. So let me just recoup the format for account payable. So this is something we could do. So if I just simply add or this deficit there, or add the negative of the deficit, I mean add $31,000. This is called a self-reference problem. Okay, so let me use a Control Z or just simply undo it. Okay, so basically the error I made is called a self-referencing. Let me say if I have a 4 and I have 1, if I plan to use 4 minus 1, then I would get 3. Okay, you guys agree on that. But what about if I change this to 4 equal to 4 plus 3, or 4, change this to 1 plus equals to 1 plus, 3. So see what I got. See, I got an error. It's because if I add this cell back to this second cell, and this third cell, number 3, is relying on the second cell. So this is basically 3. You get 3 from the second cell, which use itself, number 3 here. So it's called self-referencing. Okay, by using this simple example, I hope you guys would know what self-referencing is. So that certainly is a big problem. Okay, so what we can do, one thing you can do is to use a formula function and then enable iteration. You can just make it to travel back and forth. It's just another computer technique. All right, or we simply use a goal seek. Okay, this is something I want to teach you. Use a goal seek. All right, delete that part. So I want you guys to do data, and then under what if analysis, you see you have this button called goal seek. Okay, so under the goal seek, you should be clear about your goal, which is to make this cell to a value of 0. You want it to be balanced. Okay, you want it to be 0. And then by changing this short notes payable, okay, that's what you should do. By changing short notes payable, you want the total liabilities and equity match the total assets. Okay, but if you just did okay, it would not just because this B25 right here should be a value instead of a formula. So let me just close that out and then revisit this cell. You see it is equal to the short notes payable of last year. Therefore, it is a formula. As long as this cell starts with the equal, it's a formula. So what you can do is just to simply change that and type in 225000, okay, for $225,000. Okay, now it's a number. And then I just do the goal seek again, reset everything, make this equal to, make the gap. Make this a gap equal to 0, okay? And by changing this cell, okay? So this cell is number, not formula now, so it should work, okay? Still, the gap, the number right here in B25 should be a formula, okay? This cell should be a formula, otherwise it just wouldn't compute, all right? Then I hit it, okay? So that's my answer. So you can see that I need to adjust my short-term notes payable from 225 to 258. In that case, my gap imbalance would be closed. All right. And also, if I recoup what I had before, just a side note you may think about. So what about if I just simply add in a number? Let's say I just add in the number 31496, which is exactly the number right here. Okay, I make it equal to. So does that mean this gap will be closed? Does that mean this total assets will be equal to this total liabilities? So we will see. So, well, even though I add in the formal deficit number to the short notes payable, my liabilities increase a little bit, but still it does not match. So what is the problem? Okay, why it does not match when I just add exactly the same amount for the deficit? Okay, the question is there is a chain of reactions after you add short notes payable. So if short-term notes, let me just put notes, if notes increase, then your interest expense would increase. Do you guys agree? Okay, because your interest expense is based on interest rate and short-term, long-term debt. So when short-term debt increase, your interest expense goes up. So what else would change? Your net income would go down. You guys agree, right? When your net income go down and your dividend maintain the same as $22,000, then your retained earnings actually would go down. Okay, your retained earning would go down. So what you would see is your return earning would go down a little bit. So you still run a deficit. So the overall result is, if you add, let me just get back to the original. So this is your return earning. I want you to look at the both cells altogether. So this is your deficit. So I recouped my original setting, and I want to add exactly the same amount of the deficit right here. So when I add my notes payable, then the interest expense is going up, the net income is going down, then my retained earning would go down because return earning is depending on the net income distribution. All right, so if I hit enter, you will see my retained earning also went down. My deficit is still not closed. And if I just add another amount of deficit, you see it's still not closed. Okay, it's still not closed. And then I just add another round of a deficit. You will see the retained earnings will still get down because of the interest expense increased. So you will see the deficit keeps going down and down, but you just don't have the time and energy to keep adding the deficit on and on. You have to rely on the computer to do the iteration. So the iteration basically means from the gap number. Oh, not looks like it's closing. Right. Okay, so from the gap on the balance sheet, you add number to notes payable. That would change your interest, change your net income, change your retained earnings, and change your gap again. And then you add the gap to notes payable, and this whole series of things, factors will change. So that's called iteration. So you're gonna need a computer to do the iteration, and thankfully we can use a GoSeek to do the work. So I think GoSeek is a very important skill in the world of finance, especially when you're trying to solve problems like this. So once again, if I use GoSeek, make sure this is a number to start with, not a formula. And then you go to data, what if analysis, GoSeek, and you want this gap to be closed down to 0 by changing this short notes payable. All right, and hit OK. All right, so you are finished.